Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be diving into the world of CI/CD pipeline for modern data engineering. This is as decided by the community, and let's look at how the community voted in the last week. In the last week, we had different types of options, and obviously we have 50% of the votes going for CI/CD pipelines. Modern data engineering with AWS has 25%. dbt Snowflake's data warehouse plus any other tool has 10% of the total vote, while advanced airflow related project has 13%. So let's take a look at the comments. In the comment sections for the others, we have Mohammed Fayaz. He said he would like us to start an end-to-end series for PipeLink for both batch processing and streaming for different use cases, which is okay. Sub4804 said Spark streaming plus Kafka when the output is Delta table, and there are documentation for Microsoft data table that shows the use of streaming plus data, of course. Then Nadir75 said CI/CD project as well. Prakash Reddy said PipeLink end-to-end real-time streaming processing pipeline as part of a data lake, please. Then Surav said Twitter sentiment analysis and visualization, while Alex Strand said CI/CD for sure. Excellent. And that's how the community voted in the last week. So based on the total vote, it only makes sense to go for CI/CD for data engineering, and that is exactly what we are going to be doing in this video today. I want to use this medium to say a very big thank you to all our subscribers, all the community members, people that are engaging the videos, liking, subscribing, and sharing the videos as well. Thank you very much. It is with your support that the channel is moving forward. Let's take a look at the system architecture we are going to be building today. But before we do that, if you are new here and you have not subscribed to the channel, kindly like and subscribe to the channel so you can keep updated, and also the channel can grow and reach more people. Now, this is the system architecture. From the root, which is the entry point, we have the Azure resource group as well as the modules that are in the system. For the modules, we have the data factory and the storage account. The storage account has storage account name, the blob storage, as well as the storage containers. The storage account name is going to be named as our storage account name, regardless of what that is. We're going to have a blob storage that we're going to be creating once we create our source and destination. Now in the source container, we are going to have a test file which is going to be migrated into the destination. For the data pipeline, we are going to have our copy data, which is going to be holding a linked service, a data factory binary service, as well as data factory engine itself. Additionally, it's going to also have a data, which is going to be where we are going to be storing temporary files and information. For our data source, once we have our Azure data factory and our copy factory, we are going to have the source and the destination in here and the data sets that are applicable to each of them. Eventually, once we are done with these services, we are going to run this pipeline and see if our application works as expected or not. So let's go into the code and get started. But before we do that, the only prerequisite you need for this video is to have an Azure account. Then we are going to be installing Terraform on our system. If you don't have it before, now would be a good time to go for the installation. So let's quickly do the installation of the system. I have it on my system, but I'm going to take you through how to get it installed on your system. If you don't have Terraform installed on your system, the first thing you need to do is go into the Terraform website, which is the developer.hashicorp.com/terraform/installed. I'm going to be leaving this link in the description below, just in case you need it. For Mac users, you just need to type this command, brew tab hashicorp/tab, as well as brew install hashicorp tab Terraform. If you like to install the binary version for the compiled version of this package, you can download the AMD64 or ARM64 for Silicon Apple Mac systems. If you are using Intel version, it is recommended you use the AMD. Now, if you are using Windows, you can follow this instruction to install it. For Linux, whether you are using CentOS, Fedora, Amazon Linux, or even Homebrew, you can do the same installation by following the steps in here. So once the installation is done, you can verify that in your terminal by coming into the terminal and verify, just type Terraform. If you type Terraform, and you are able to see something like this. It says the Terraform, whatever, the available commands is this. This means that Terraform has been successfully installed on your system. Alternatively, if you type Terraform / version, you will see the version of Terraform that is currently installed on your system. So I have Terraform 1.57 on my system, 1.5.7 on my system, as well as the Darwin ARM65, which is the Mac Silicon chip. It says I have a Terraform that is out of date. I'm going to leave it as it is before updating. So let's go into the system. But if you are installing for the first time, you might have a latest version. So I'm going to go into the system now and get started with the coding. So let's create a new project. I'll be using PyCharm for this project. You can use any IDE. This is not tied to PyCharm. You can use any IDE you like, whether VS Code or any other IDE that you like. So in this case, I'll be calling this Modern Data Engineering with CI/CD. I'll be using Python 3.9. It doesn't really matter which virtual environment I'm using because I'm not really using Python in this case, but I'm going to create the project anyways. Now I don't need the venv, so you can delete that if you want, but I'm going to leave it as it is for now. One other thing you need to do before you continue is to get Azure CLI on your system installed. Okay, I'm going to come into learn.microsoft.com in US CLI Azure. I'm going to also leave this link in the description below, where you can download for Windows and Linux or Mac or wherever. So I'm going to be selecting the Mac, and for Homebrew, this is how to install it. You just do brew install Azure CLI, and for Windows, if you are using Windows, you can install it by going in here, and you see the installation instruction of how to get it for 62-bit and 64-bit and 32-bit. Okay, once that is done, you can verify the AZ command. You can verify the installation of this Azure on your system by checking this. You will see the Azure CLI version that is currently installed on your system, the core telemetry, dependencies that are installed as well, and the location of the Python, as well as each of the other information that are there. Once that is done, the next thing you need to do is go into the terminal of your project, and this is where we are going to be linking Azure you have on your system to your subscription. Once you have successfully installed Azure CLI, the next thing is for you to link your Azure CLI to your Azure account. You can do that by typing AZ login, and this is going to take you to a browser where you are going to be logging in. So if you click on that, and it's going to launch a browser, and in this browser you are going to have something like this once you've logged in. Okay, it says I've been logged in, and you can see how it looks like in the Azure CLI documentation. Regardless of any other thing, once you see something like this, you select your account, your Azure account, and you'll see something like this. Okay, now once that is logged in, you will see something like this, where you see your cloud name, the tenant ID, the ID itself, the tenant ID, and the username. Okay, once you've seen something like this, the next thing for you to do is once you've seen this, you have successfully logged into the system, and now you are ready to run your commands. Now, going into the system, I'm going to touch our main.tf. This is going to be our Terraform file for the entry points to our solution. Okay, so I'm going to go into the main.tf and get started with the Terraform provider for Azure. Okay, so I'm going to say Terraform, and then I'm passing in the required providers. The required providers, I'll just disable. The required providers is Azure RM, and I'm going to be passing in the source, which is going to be more like the image. If you are familiar with Docker, HashiCorp / Azure RM, then you're going to have a version which is going to be a version of Scribble, and then we have 3.0.2, right? Now, once this is done, we have a required version, which is here. We pass in the greater than or equals to 1.1.0. All right. Now, this is the Terraform that will be used for this platform. Now we need to specify our provider. So we just get in our provider. It's going to be Azure RM, this guy. And we don't have any features that we're going to be adding to this provider. So we leave it at this for now. Then we type in Terraform init. Terraform init is going to get the image into your system and install it. Once you see something like this, that means this image has been successfully added to your system. You can confirm that by seeing what you have in here. You can see that I have something like that here. Good. Now, based on our image in here, we are going to have our resource group as well as our modules. So let's start with the resource group first before we go into the modules. Our resource group is going to start with, I'm going to just reduce this or even minimize this for now. We're going to start with resource, and we are going to have Azure RM resource group, and this is going to take a variable name of resource group. The name of this resource group is going to be in our variables, so we are going to put this in a variable on our system. So we are going to have resource var.resource group name. Then the location where the resource group is going to be sitting in, we have var.location. The tags is going to be also var.tags, if there's any. If not, we're going to leave it at that. But for now, let's leave it as it is right now. Now you are seeing these errors because there are no variables installed on the system. So let's get the variables in. So let's say we have variables.tf, and you can see the variables in here. So let's get in the variables. So we start with the variable resource group name, which is going to have a description. We say the name of the resource group, as well as a type, which is going to be a string. Good. And then we need to have our location and the tags. So let's get in the location and the tag. We have variable location, which is going to be the description of the location or region of the resource, and the type also is a string. One final thing, we need the tags, variable tags. We have the description, which is the tags associated with your resource. Then the type as well is going to be string. Perfect. Now, if you look at this, we don't have those red scribbles or red colors anymore, which is a good thing. So that means our system is getting ready to get started. Now, from our architecture in here, we've just initialized our resource group, which is our RG. Then the next thing is to have our modules. We have two modules in the system, the data factory and the storage account. I would say we should go for the storage account first before we go into the data factory because of the dependency. Okay, so let's go into the storage account and let's get into that. So I'm going to be creating a new directory. I'll call that make directory. I'm going to have modules, and I'm going to be creating this recursively. I'm going to have storage account / storage account. And if you look at what we have in here, I have storage account. Then if you drill that down, you see storage account. Now inside this storage account, I'm going to be touching our storage account.tf. So that will be inside our modules, storage account, and we are going to have storage account.tf. Okay, not td. I'm just going to refactor this and rename that tf. Okay, Now, one other thing that we need for this is the variable. We need the variables for the storage account module. So we are going to have variables. Now, these variables are the ones that are particular to this Terraform script itself. Okay. Now, it's easy. What we need to do is get our storage into the system, just like we have in here. We have our storage account, we have our storage blob, and our storage containers. So I'm going to get the three into the system. So the way we do that is to start with the storage first, which is going to be Azure RM. We have our storage account, and then we put this into storage. Okay. And I think I should increase the size a little bit. Just for people that might need it to be bigger, okay, just for legibility's sake. I'm going to have the name, and I'm going to be declaring some variables. I'm going to be declaring some variables in here. So I'm going to have our storage account name, the resource group name, which is going to be also variables, resource group name. We are going to have the location where this is going to be sitting in. Location. Then we have the account tier, which is the standard. Okay. Or we can use the basic, whichever one. I'm just going to leave it as standard. We have account replication type, which is going to be LRS. Then the tags that are associated with this, we are going to have the environment is going to be development. If I can only type development. Okay, somebody save me. All right, so let's go into the second resource, which is the containers that we're going to be creating. These guys, we have the source and the destination. Okay, so I'm going to have our resource in here, and we're going to have Azure RM storage. Instead of storage account, it's going to be storage container. Now, inside the storage account, those are where you see your containers. If you look at your storage accounts in here, I don't have any. So, but if you look at the storage account, inside the storage account, you see the containers. Okay. We can verify that once we initialize this and we start running for testing sake. Okay, so I'm going to have create container, and I'm going to be creating this dynamically, interestingly. So we're going to have for each, just like a for loop. So if you have multiple storage accounts, you can add them into this. So I'm going to have source, which is going to be var.source folder name, and then the destination, which is going to be var.destination folder name as well. Now, these are the two variables that are going to be required. I mean, the two containers that I'm going to be creating, the source and the destination, just like we have in our architecture in here. Okay. Now, for us to create all of them, each of them, we are going to need a name. The name is going to be each.key. Okay. And then the storage account name is going to be Azure RM storage account.storage.name. I'm trying to refer to this storage account in here, the storage, which is the storage name, and then the name of this variable, which is this guy. Still the same thing as saying var.storage account name, but interestingly, it is possible, for some reasons, I just want to use the right or the standard way of referring to a previous resource. Okay. Then we have the container access type. Usually it's going to be private, but you can put that in the variable as well, which is going to be container access type. All right. Now, we just have two items in here that has been created. We just need to get in our blob storage. Now, the blob storage is where we have our test file that we're going to be putting in the source directory, so we can, simulate the integration of data from source to the destination. How do we do that? Easily, we just say our resource is going to be our storage blob, Azure RM storage blob. Yeah, this guy. And then we're going to give it a name, which is the create test file. Then the name of the file is going to be test.txt. the storage account name is going to be Azure RM storage account.storage.name, just like we referred to the previous one earlier. Then we are going to have another one, the Azure RM storage container, this guy. That's the container name. Then we have the create container. That's the name of the container. So where are we putting it? We are putting it in the source. Okay, the source.name. Okay, just like we have the source in here, then we are referring to this particular name. Technically, we are referring to the source folder name. Okay, if you like, you can put the variable directly in here, but to have a more robust system and a more structured system, is better to have each referencing each other. Okay, now the type is going to be block because we are creating a file, and the source content is easily as hello world, in fact hello community from code with you. All right, now once that is done, the final thing is we need to export the name or the primary access key of the data that is created in here, simply because we are going to be referring to the storage account from the data factory. All right, we want to have a link directly from our storage account to our data factory. So let's export that, but we don't have to do that right away. We can do it much later, but it doesn't harm to have it output in here. So we're going to have our storage account key. Once it is created, we are going to have the value of Azure RM storage account .storage.primary access key. Now, this primary access key is going to be created only when the storage has been created, so we can have access to the primary access key. Okay. Now, let's fix all these red colors. Okay. In the variables, we just get in our storage account name easily. We just copy. I can copy this one. And in our variables in here, I'm going to just paste this, and we're going to have storage account name, which is the storage account name, and this should be gone. Good. Then we have the resource group name. Well, maybe I shouldn't have removed that. I'll just copy this again and then paste it in here. Close this string, and the other error message should be disappeared as well. Then the next one is the source folder name. Okay, we don't need the tags in here, so let's get in the source folder name. And this is going to be the source folder name, and then I'll just copy this for the destination as well. Destination folder name. Okay, now we are left with the container access type, so I'm going to just copy paste that, and we can have the container access type. Where is it? Container access type, which is also going to be the access type for the storage account container. Okay, easy peasy. Then it's a string, but we are defaulting that. There's no need to have since it's going to be private anyways, there's no need to have anything associated to that, so we can put it as private. Good. Now I think everything is green in here, so there are two ways to this. We can proceed by taking this for a spin, and we see how this goes, if there's anything that we need to add to this, or we can just adjust much later. But for us to be able to do that and take it for a spin, once we've created this, now we've created this, but we've not linked it to our root module. So let's link it to our root module. The way to do that is to come back into our main.tf. Now we have a module called storage account. Our module is called storage account, and in the source we're going to have the path to our module, which is the storage account. I just hope I'm able to type storage account. Okay, then I'm going to have our source folder, but easily you can just right click on this I think there usually is the context action. Then add the properties. Now the properties are the things that are being leveraged in here, the variables that are being leveraged. Okay, we have the destination folder name. I'm just going to rearrange them. So we have the resource group name, the location, the source, and the destination. I'll just rearrange it like that. Now for the resource group name, I'm going to put this as a var.resource group name. Our storage account name is going to be var.storage account name. Okay. Don't we have this? Yes, we don't, because this is in the main context. We are going to adjust that shortly. Then we have our var.location. We have our var.source folder name, as well as var.destination folder name. Good. Excellent. So let's fix the issues of the variables in here. I'm just going to copy this guy. I don't need this, just the source and the destination into the variables here. And then finally, I'll just copy the storage account name as well. Okay. So we have something like this, and in the main, all our errors are gone. Now, to test this, we just need to do Terraform in it, just to reinitialize these modules, and it can recognize it. We do Terraform validate to validate our configuration, see if there's any error message or anything that we need to adjust to that. Now it says, let's see what we have. It says our var tags is a string. It shouldn't be a string. Tags is usually a map. So let's fix that. In our storage account, which is what we have in here. Yeah, in our main, that's in our main, isn't it? Yeah, our tags in here. So let's fix that. In our variables for the tag, for the main, we have tags as a string. Instead of string, it should be a map of string. And the map is a key value pair, isn't it? So we just validate this again, and you see configuration is valid. The next thing is to do Terraform plan, and then we need a variable file, which is something that we've not done yet. So if you run this, it's going to be asking you to provide the variables manually. So let's create a variable that we're going to be using. So I'm going to have variables.tfvars. Now this is where we are going to be putting the key value pairs of all the variables that are going to be used in this project. So we start with the resource group name. So let's go into the variables.tfvars. We have the resource group name as a code with you, resource group. Then the storage account name is going to be code with you, SA, the storage account. We have the right now we have the storage account, resource group, and if you look at the main, what else do we have? We have the location, isn't it? The location, we have location equals to UK South. You can choose the nearest location that you have. Now the tags, which we said is going to be, the tags is going to be a map of string, which is going to be something like environment, is going to be development. You can add any other thing to this, but I'm just going to leave it at that. And then we have the source folder name, which is what we have in here. Source folder name is going to be source, and the destination folder name is going to be destination. All right. So let's take this for a spin and see if everything is working as expected. All right. We do Terraform plan, the var file, and this is the command to do that. I'll just pass in the variable file to this, and then we'll see if everything is working as expected. This is supposed to generate the list of activities that are going to be added, or the modules or stuff that are going to be added, resources that are going to be added to the system. Okay, so the first one is the resource group, which is good. Now we have our storage accounts that will be created. Okay, with all this information, all of these are going to be known after we apply that to that. Then you're going to be having a blob storage, which is going to be creating hello community from code with you. Then we're going to be having Azure RM storage container in here, the first one, which is going to be private for the destination as well as the source. So it says in this plan, we're going to be having 5 resources to be added, 0 to change and 0 to destroy. Okay, there's one other thing that I want to adjust. I'm a little bit petty in there, so I'm just going to say hello code with you community. Okay, code with you community from Yusuf. Okay, in fact, I'll just say hello code with you community. I think that's okay. All right, now I'm going to save this and we are going to go back into this. We can rerun this, but we already know this is going to work as expected. So let's apply this. All right. Applying this is going to run our plan. It's going to generate a plan as well as apply it to our Azure container. So it's going to say, do you actually want to perform these actions? Only yes will be accepted to approve. I'm going to type in yes and press enter. And we can see how this is going to be running on the system and applying them to our Azure account. So you can see it's creating a resource group. Good. It's creating a storage account and it's trying to create all of them. So we just wait a little while for all of that to be completed and you see how long it takes. Perfect. It says apply complete and you can see it applied all of them under 22 seconds or thereabout. So if you go back on the UI and I go into my home, if I refresh this and I go into my resource groups, if I click on the resource group, I can type that as well. You can see we have resource group in here, and in the resource group, this is just recently created. Okay. And you can see our storage account that has been created for us. If you click on that and you go into the containers, this was what I was talking about. If you go into the containers, we see the destination and you see the source. Perfect. They are just created a few seconds ago. Okay. And inside the source, we are expecting a text file, which is the test.txt. And if you look at the content, I'm going to just download this. If you look at the content of this file, you see hello code with you community. Good. So that means our code is working as expected. Now, I'm going to tear this down. I'm going to do the same thing, but instead of that, I'm going to do destroy. All right. We are going to be running this much later, but for now, we've seen that our code as it is right now is working. Good. Now, the next module we are going to be working with based on our architecture is the data factory, which is where the meat of this video is actually is. Yes, I want to destroy them. All right, so the same way we created our storage account, we are going to do the same for our module, our Azure Data Factory module. How do we do that? The same way. I'm just going to wait a few seconds for this to finish destroying. Then we can apply it. We can apply the Azure Data Factory to that. Good. All the resources have been destroyed. So let's create our Azure Data Factory account. So we module rather. So we say make directory, and instead of storage account, I'm going to have what's the name? Data Factory, isn't it? Data Factory. And at the end, I'm having Data Factory as well. Good. And if you look at here, I have Data Factory, Data Factory. So let's create our Data Factory Data Factory Terraform file, which is the data_factory.tf. And we do the same for our variable as well. Variables as well. Okay, good. So if you look at the Data Factory, we have no way. I was creating a directory, so it should be touch, isn't it? Touch this. All right. And then touch this as well. Good. Now I'm going to have these two guys removed. I just need to reload this from disk. Okay, I'm just going to delete these two and touch that and touch this other one as well. Good. Okay. Data Factory and the variables, isn't it? Good. Now in the Data Factory section, we're just getting our resource for Data Factory. We say resource is going to be Azure RM Data Factory. And then we're going to have the name of the Data Factory. I call it ADF. So the name, the location, the name, I'm going to just rearrange this a little bit. So I have the name. The name is going to be coming from variables. I'm going to have variable of ADF name, DF name. Maybe I'll just put it as DF name. Then the location is going to be var.location. Then we have var.resource group name. Okay, I think I've just rearranged that. Okay, good. Resource group name, good. And one other thing that I'm going to be added, this is optional. You can add it, but you don't. It's not necessary. I'm just going to be adding that to it. It's optional, really. But the identity is going to be system assigned. I think it's the system assigned by default as well. Now, this is our data factory in here. We just initialize this resource. Now let's get this guy into the system. We just did this. Now let's get the data into the system. Okay, this data guy, which is the data storage account for the destination folder and the source folder storage. All right, so I'm going to get the data. This is where I'm going to be storing the more like temporary keys of the resource information that we have. Okay, we have the Azure RM storage account. Then the source folder storage is going to be the storage. Okay. All right. Yeah, so I have the name. The name is going to be the storage account name. Storage account name. Then the resource group name is going to be resource group name. Okay. I just put that in as my source. And the same thing will be repeated for our destination. We can use the same, actually. I mean, this is more like replicated destination. I mean, for optimization, this can be, very much optimized much later. But for now, I'm going to leave it at this, even though it's the same thing, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. All right. Resource is going to be our Azure RM. Okay. If you look at what we have in here, we just initialize this. We just need to get in our blob storage as well as the data set, because the data set is going to be riding on the blob storage potentially. Okay, so we just get in our blob storage, so which is Azure RM data factory. Then we have linked service, and that would be Azure blob storage. All right, and this is going to be our source. So the source is going to be saying, what's your name? You can easily get the context of all this information by just right clicking there and get that into the system. So easily, I'm going to have this as my source storage. All right, that's the name of the source. Then the data factory is going to be referring to the data factory that I created earlier in here. So which is the Azure data factory.adf.id, isn't it? Then the connection string that is going to be linking our Azure blob storage to our ADF in here is going to be coming in from data. I'm just going to remove this quote from there. Data.azure-rm account .source folder storage .primary connection, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. I'll just minimize this for now. Okay. And then those are the three things that we need for that. We do the same for our destination. I'll just copy that and then change this to destination and change this as well to destination. And finally, I change this to destination folder storage primary connection string. Good. Now, we've created our link service, which we are going to verify on the UI shortly. But right now we have our source storage, destination storage. The next thing we need to do is create our data set that is going to be riding on this linked service to go into our storage account and get our storage account, the source folder and the destination folder, if that makes sense. Okay. So what we are going to do is for the source, I'm going to say this is the source and the sync data set to blob storage. storage. Okay, now we're going to have a resource in here. The resource is going to be Azure RM, and this is going to be data factory, isn't it? Data factory, then data set binary in here, and this is going to be our source data set. Okay, there's a difference between dataset binary and blob storage, just in case you're wondering. So now, if you are familiar with Azure Data Factory, you have datasets that are linked to other services as well. Okay, but for now, we're just going to limit it to our dataset binary. All right. So this is going to be our source underscore dataset. It is very important you notice the underscore in here, because if you use the dash, the dataset name can only contain, I think, letters and numbers, probably, and underscore. I don't know if the numbers are there, but you can only use underscore. You can't use maybe hyphen or dash. Okay. For our data factory ID, is going to be Azure RM factory ID.adf.id. Simple as that. Then our linked service name is going to be Azure linked service in here for the source, and then the name. Pretty much easy. All right. Finally, we need to have our SFTP, which is going to be linking to a particular container inside our storage account. All right. We have the SFTP server location, which is this file name that we're going to be using as our source data set. I'm going to be using the test.txt that we created earlier, if you can recall, in our storage account, this guy. Test.txt, and then the path is going to be from source. Okay, if you put yours in a different path, you can use the source, maybe / something in there. All right, now we can copy this and replicate the same for our destination as well. I'm going to have destination this guy, destination dataset, and in here I'm going to have destination dataset. Now the same thing goes in here, but instead of the source, I'm going to have destination.name. All right. Now the destination name, that's where this data is going to be sitting in. What is going to be the file name? I'm going to be changing this so we can know for sure the data actually sits in there, even though we're going to see it. But each time we run, I want to be seeing a new record of data. Okay. So I'm going to say the name is going to be test. Then I'm going to be adding, the current timestamp into that. So you can do that by using the format date, okay? And I can use the string format of year, okay? Which is the what's the name? Year 4 Ys, mm, and dd. Then we have the hour, minutes, and seconds, okay? Then we can put this as a timestamp. What we just need to do is close this bracket, and at the end of the day, close this .txt. Okay, I just hope I didn't make any mistake in here. Okay, then the path is going to now be not source this time around, it's going to be destination. Okay, good. Now potentially we have two data sets, the source and the sink. Well, we've not really tell the Azure Data Factory that this is going to be the source and this is going to be the sink, okay? But we know for sure we've created two data sets now, one for the source and one for the sink, okay? The destination. So let's create the relationship on the pipeline. Now the pipeline, the way it works is we're going to have a copy data. If you are familiar with Azure Data Factory, you know that we have a copy data, and inside this copy data, we have the source and the sink, which is where the data is going to be coming from and going to. All right. For our source, we are going to be using the source data set, and we're going to be passing this. You can also use a parameter if you like, but we're going to be using this simple stuff. Then once we run this, we are going to have our sink as our destination data set. I'm going to show you how that works on the pipeline. Now, I'm going to have a resource in here, and the resource name is going to be Azure RM data factory, and I'm going to just look for underscore pipeline, isn't it? Yeah, pipeline. Then I'm going to call this copy data. All right. Now inside my copy data, I need to put in some key parameters in there. But easily I can just click this context and then click that, and I'll see the name. And so this is potentially going to create an empty it's going to create an empty pipeline for me without anything. So I'm going to just say copy data, copy underscore data underscore pipeline. Okay. Then the data factory ID where the pipeline will be created is what? I call this Azure RM data factory, this guy, .adf.id. All right. That's where the pipeline will be created. So what do we want to have inside the pipeline itself? Okay. So I'm going to have a copy data. All right. I'm going to have activities JSON, which is currently here. Now, the way the JSON is structured is to have less than, double less than, and JSON, and then you close that with a JSON. So more like if you are familiar with HTML tag, is similar to that without this less than or greater than. Okay. So this is double less than JSON, and you close it with JSON. Okay. Now, inside this guy, we are going to have an array, which is going to have an object. This object is going to be key value pair, and we are going to be having a couple of data in here. The key is going to be the name, and the name is going to be copy from source to destination. Okay. Then the type of this copy is going to be copy. All right, so that's the name potentially on the UI, and then we have the input. I'll format this much later, so let's just get this out of the way first. Hopefully there is no mistake. Okay, I'm going to have the name is going to be name. I'm going to put this as what's our copy. This the input is going to be our source data set, isn't it? And then the output, yeah, I'll just copy this, and this should be outputs. Okay, the name is going to be destination dataset. Okay, let's format this before we continue. All right, this goes in just one step in like that. Good. So we have our inputs and the outputs. Now we need to get in our type properties. All right, type properties. Now for the type properties, let's get this in. We're going to have our source and the sink. All right, just like in your data factory, when you click on the data factory properties, you're going to be seeing the source and the sink in there. What is going to be in the source and what will be in the sink? That's what we are specifying right now. But what this means is we have our input and output. Okay, we can use the input and the output, which is the data set that we've created earlier. So let's do that. So we have our source, which is going to be of type. The type of our source is going to be, I'll just tap this. The type is going to be binary source. Okay. And then this is going to be recursive of true, recursive, okay, of true. Then here we are going to have our destination, which is the sink. I'll just copy this and paste that. And in the sink, we are going to have a binary sink as well. We don't need to put in recursive in here. We just get in our resource directly. All right, so finally, we just pass one attribute in here, enable staging, which is going to be false. We don't need any staging. Now, any other thing that we need in here is going to be more of the policy and the scheduler. Okay, so the policy that we're going to be applying to this is going to be policy. It's going to be this type. We're going to have in our timeout. Is going to be maybe after 7. Then we can retry. No, retry is going to be false, which is going to be 0. Retry interval in seconds. It's going to be 30 seconds if there is any, but there is no retry. We have the secure output is going to be false. Okay, and secure input false as well. Now we are done with the policy. Let's get in our scheduler. Okay, scheduler is going to be scheduled to run once in a day, which is going to be frequency. That's if you want to schedule this. Okay, frequency is going to be day. The interval of this run interval is going to be 1 day, just more like every day. You can put it, every 5 minutes. It doesn't really matter what you put in there for now. The next thing is our external. It's going to be true because I'm creating this as external system. And finally, we have our inputs and the outputs. All right, just like we had in here before. Let's see what we have. Our inputs, okay. But this time around the structure is a little bit different. I'm going to have, in fact, I'm going to just, let's see, remove this and, replace that in here. So instead of the name, I'm going to change this to reference name as source data set, and then just format this properly, and then the type. I just realized that we data set reference. Okay, we are not creating a separate input and output. We are referring to a particular data set, so there's no need to create a separate one. All right, I'll just get this as our destination data set. And I think that's all we need to do in here. We'll get our data set to reference. So far, there is no error. We can take this for a spin and see if everything is fine. And finally, we can do depends on. The reason for this depends on is by the time we are destroying, so it knows the order at which to destroy. So if you type destroy without any dependency, it's going to try and destroy the data set before the pipeline all at the same time. So that would create a dependency issue because the pipeline is dependent on the data set potentially on the storage account. Okay, so if everything is deleted at the same time, you're going to have dependency issue at that point. So we need to create our dependency level in here, which is the Azure Azure RM data factory, and then we are going to have data set binary as our source. The same thing with the destination as well. Okay, good. And that's all we need to do, really. All right. And we just need to see if we can fix all these variable issues. All right, so for the variables in the data factory, we just get the data factory variables into the picture. And to do that, we just, copy, paste the variables that are required. We start with the df name. I'll just, where is our previous variable? I think I can copy everything in here and put that in our variables, okay? Yeah, all these are gone. We have the resource, the location, the storage account name, resource group name. Okay. Then we need our source folder, the destination folder, isn't it? We don't actually. I'm just going to remove these two. And the container access type, I'm going to remove them. But right now we are left with our df name. So we're going to have our variable df name underscore name, isn't it? And that is going to be of type of description. Is going to be the data factory name. The type is going to be a string. All right. So we go back in here, format everything to see that, to be sure that everything is working as expected. Then in our terminal, we are missing something. Now, before we go into the terminal, by the time we finish our module, we need to, add the same module to our root, so the root can know when to initialize it. Because right now, we only have our storage account. Data factory is created, but we don't have it linked to our root directory. So let's do that. Now, in the root directory, we are going to have module data factory, data_factory. And this is going to be having a source from modules, data factory. Now we just need to get in the dependencies. I'll just click on this and add all the properties. So we have our df name. The df name is going to be coming from df_name. The location is going to be var.location. The resource group is var.resource group name. Then the storage account will be var.storage account name. So we just need to get the df name as part of the variables in our main. All right. I'm just coming here and get the df name as well. In our variables, I'll just add that to the bottom. And then the variables in here, we are going to now put in our df name, which is the data factory name, isn't it? Yeah. So we have df name. It's going to be code with you adf. All right. What else is missing in our main? That's all. So we just need to do a validation check. All right. Terraform validate. It says the module is not yet installed, so we do Terraform init, just like we did earlier, and Terraform validate. All right, so it says timestamp only expect. We have timestamp. All right, so let's fix that in our data factory. Let's see what we have. Yeah, it should be just timestamp, just like that. So the configuration is valid, and right now we can take this for a spin. So let's see if everything is working as expected. All right. So I'm just going to do Terraform plan, and then we apply our variables tf vars, and this is going to apply all our variables. Okay, it says code with URSG was not found. Okay, storage account was not found, and the resource group was not found as well. So these are inside the module data factory, the source folder storage, data storage account was not found. Okay. So if you go to our data factory in here, we have this guy as what we have from here. So we need to pass in the storage account name, and let's see, did we pass that in? I'll just move this to the side, and in our main, okay, and in our data factory, we have our storage account name. So it's complaining that it couldn't find the resource group. Now, the reason why it couldn't find it was because of the what I talked about earlier. If you look at the main in here, we said we are creating data factory. Now, because of the dependencies, creating each of them separately or individually in parallel. So there's no dependency to say create the storage account first before you create the data factory or the resource group. So that's what is causing the issue right now. So for us to fix that, we just need to add our depends on. The depends on is going to be dependent on the storage account, which is the module.storage account, while the storage account itself will be dependent on the resource group. All right, that would be the Azure rm.resource group. All right. So this is what this guy is going to be dependent on, and the data factory is going to be dependent on the storage account. So let's validate this and run it again. Okay, good. So let's apply plan and see if everything is working as expected. Perfect. It says we are adding 11 services and you can see all of them in here. So let's put it in our out. We have our plan.out, so we can save it somewhere, and then we can run the apply to apply our configuration. All right, so this is going to be saved inside plan.out. Good. So let's run this again, and we say Terraform apply, and we are expecting all these services to be sitting pretty nicely on our system. Okay, so yes, I need to type in yes before we continue. Okay. Excellent. So it's creating. So our resource group is getting created, and it says the creation is completed after 0 seconds. Once that is completed, we created a storage account, and the storage account, after creating the storage account and putting the right data in there, is going to be creating our Azure Data Factory. It says error passing activities JSON for data factory when we have the copy pipeline. It says invalid character after the key value pair. So the challenge is we don't know which exact one. Okay, if you look at this, we have line 58. If you look at our data factory in line 58, yeah, in line 58, copy data. So we don't know exactly which one was having issue. It says invalid character days after object key value pair. So let's fix that. We need to just look at that more closely. All right, so we start with this one. Copy, type properties, source, type binary. Let's see, energy enable staging, the policy, retry after seconds. Let's see. Yeah, I've seen it. So this is where the error is coming from. After policy timeout, there is no comma. All right, so that was where the issue is coming from. I just need to plan this again and apply. I'll just apply. And I'll type yes. Okay, so it says looking for invalid character at the beginning of object. All right, so what's the issue here? In the activities JSON. So there's another missing comma somewhere. I think it's this one. Finally, we have one resource added. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to destroy this so we can reapply all of them from the start. Terraform destroy. So it's going to destroy all of them and then recreate them so we can see how everything goes. I don't know, the error is just you know, crazy and unnecessary. So yes, okay. Why is destroy? Okay, because I typed double Y. Okay, just a sec. Yes, and should be destroying all of them now. Okay, so now that all of the 11 resources have been destroyed, I will just reapply them again so we can see how each of them are working, if they are working as expected as well. Okay, I'm typing yes. Excellent. All of the resources have been created. And if you go back in here and I do a refresh, and we go into our resource group, if you go into the resource group, you will see that we have one resource group in here, and we have our data factory, our storage account, which you checked earlier. You can see what we have in the source and the destination. We have the source in here, and if you look at the destination, this is what we have. No results, nothing inside our destination. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go into the resource again. I'm going to launch our storage, our data factory in a new window, which is this guy, and then launch this other guy inside this tab, the storage account. All right, in our container we are going to have our source and destination. And if you look at our data factory, if you go into our manage, you will see that we have two linked servers, which is the source and the destination. If you click on the source and you test connection in here, you see that our connection is successful, and the same thing goes for, I'm going to cancel this, and the same thing goes for our destination as well. If you run this and click on test connection, you see that everything is working as expected. If you go to the author section, you will see that we created two data sets, the source and the destination. In the source, you can see we are linking the source automatically to our test.txt in our storage account, this guy. We are linking that to this, and the same thing, there's no parameters in here. And if you test the connection as well, you see that connection is successful. The same thing with the destination data set. You see our destination and the test file that we created, which is this test plus this file name as well. If you test this again, you see that we have connection successful. Perfect. And finally, if you go into our pipeline, you will see that we have copy data pipeline. Now in our data pipeline, you will see that we have our general, which is all this information. The timeout is here. This is what we set as our timer, 7 seconds. We have source. The source is selecting this automatically to our source data set, which is what we have earlier. All right. And the sync as well is going for the destination. All we just need to do is, validate this to see if everything is working. The pipeline has been validated as successful, and then we just need to debug. And this is going to run the pipeline. Now, this is very important at this point. Validating the pipeline is not the same as running the pipeline or debugging it. So debugging is when you actually put everything into action and you want to see the data migration from the source to the destination. That's what we are currently doing. We will validate this once this is completed. All right, going back into our data factory, we just refresh this, and you can see everything is succeeded. And if you go into our source, you see, in our destination, if you go into the container, you go into the destination, you will see that we have our destination, which is the test file in here. If I download this to my system and I open it up, you will see that I have hello code with you community. The same thing if you go to our container again and you go into the source and download this guy from here, you will see that we have the latest one, which is the same file in here. So the data integration is completed. Once this is validated as completed and everything is working as expected, the next thing you want to do is don't forget to destroy or tear down all this infrastructure. Otherwise, you're going to be incurring costs. So let's do that before we go. All right, I'm going to do Terraform. Instead of apply this time around, I'm going to be destroying these infrastructures, and with the destroy, everything we tear down. Perfect. Now all these resources have been destroyed. Now it is very important at this point to note that all these services are not the only services that you can work with. There are still so much more services that you can use Terraform to automate, to provision the infrastructure, regardless of whether you are using the test environment, the staging, or the production environment as well. You can also use different providers like other Google Cloud providers, or if you like, you can use something like Docker to orchestrate all this on the container itself. So this is where we're going to be stopping the video for now. If you have not subscribed to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And also, if you have any feedback or comments, drop them in the link in the description. It is very important you also join the discussion in the community. We have a community now that you can join and make suggestions of videos you would like to see in the next videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to be seeing you in the next one.